Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today to share with you some of my favorite websites, which are my go-to websites when I conduct my genealogical research in the province of Quebec. So I separated my selections into free websites and subscription websites. I'm a strong believer in accessing free websites first to find information before accessing a pay-per-view website. So I'll first review Quebec's Library and National Archives. In Quebec, we call it the Bibliothèque et Archives Nationales, or the BANQ, or bank for short. This website is probably the least accessed by Anglophone genealogists and historians, only because the whole website is in French, unfortunately. But it is Quebec's National Archive Center, so it's chock full of genealogical information. The next one I want to go through is the Fichier Origine. Now, the Fichier Origine is just that. In French, it's called the origin file. It provides information on the first immigrants to Quebec from their country of origin, which is really unique. It's really quite an interesting website as well. The next one I want to talk about is Nos Origines. And Nos Origines is a website in English or in French, so it is bilingual, which has wonderful family trees on Quebec's first immigrants. One that you may not have heard about, and is completely free as well, is Claire Genealogy. And Claire Genealogy is a website dedicated to documenting the clergy in Quebec, which you might think is a bit odd, but often if you find on your family tree a baptismal record, but can't find their marriage record or a burial record, it's very possible that they join the clergy, a religious order, and then they get kind of lost forever because they don't marry, and they often get buried in the cemetery of the religious order. I have here at the very bottom, Family Search. And you may think, well, why do you have Family Search here? Everyone pretty much knows how to use Family Search. But what I want to concentrate here is the non-indexed Quebec records, records that you wouldn't be able to find if you're just putting in the search field a surname and a first name kind of thing. So they're not indexed, so you wouldn't be able to find them on Family Search. And then I want to go through some of Quebec's premier databases, databases that almost every Quebecer in the province uses to research their ancestry. The first one, these are subscription databases where you have to pay money to join. So the one that I like the most, that's kind of my go-to database, is called the BMS 2000, which you may not have heard of. B stands for baptême, the M for mariage, and the S for sépulture, or burial, and it was launched in the year 2000. And the reason why I like it is because it goes from the 1600s all the way up to the mid-2000s, which is very unusual. The next one I want to go through is the PRDH, called the Programme de Recherche en Démographie Historique in French. And it's a wonderful database as well, that its strength is family pages, family genealogy pages. And the next one is Genealogy Quebec, which you may or may not have heard of as well. It is the Drouin Institute's database. So you may have heard of the Drouin collection, the Drouin collection in Ancestry, but this is so much more than the Drouin collection. Of course, the Drouin collection belongs to Genealogy Quebec because it's owned by the Drouin Institute, but it has so much more information for you. So let's take a look. I'm first going to go through the BANQ website. Now, your handout has how to access these databases. So I'm not going to go through and show you exactly how to do your research. I'm just going to show you what all of these websites can do for you with regards to your genealogical research. So the BANQ, If you notice, no one ever says the Bibliothèque et Archives Nationales de Québec. It's way too long to say. Even in English, it's way too long to say. So we all say the BANQ or the bank. So I'm first going to go through the birth, marriage, burials records that exist on the website. The registers of civil status of Quebec from the origins to up to 1919, non-Catholic baptisms, marriages and burials, marriage contracts. It has census records for various parishes and cities in the province of Quebec. I'm not going to go through them all in detail. I'm just going to let you know what this website has to offer. Digitized newspapers from all of the Quebec administrative regions, English and French. Coroner's inquest. This is always interesting because I'm not sure everyone knows what they are in the province, but they have coroner's inquests for various Quebec districts from the 1900s to about 1982. And the coroner's inquest is where there's a court hearing where the coroner considers evidence to determine the identity of the deceased and the date, place, manner, and cause of death of the deceased. So it's always interesting if you think that your ancestor died a violent death, that take a look at the coroner's inquest and see how the death occurred. Court documents, various court documents that we don't think of accessing, but they can reveal various tidbits of our ancestors' lives. Preliminary inquiries in the Judicial District of Quebec, Courts of Appeal records, bankruptcy files. The BANQ also has various directories. The Level Directory of Montreal and its suburbs go up to 2010. In Quebec City, the Quebec City Directory goes up to 1976. There's also the Quebec City Almanac, similar to the Marcotte Directory, which goes up to 1841. And the BANQ has various notarial records, has all the Quebec notaries from the 1600s up to 1937, and of course the notarial documents. This is similar to what you would find on Ancestry, the notarial records on Ancestry, except they are all free. This is a free database. And the BANQ is actually the official repository of all notarial records in Quebec, so you will never miss one. They're all there. Inventories after death, always interesting to see what property our ancestors left behind when their estate was settled, so that's interesting to look at as well. And there's various other records that exist on the BANQ that are free. Divorce files and judgments for certain judicial districts. Militia records, mostly from the War of 1812, Canadians that partook in the War of 1812. Land grants, maps from 1537 up to the 21st century of all Quebec districts. Guardianships, it has all guardianships. Guardianships are very common in New France from the early 1600s up to about the early 1900s. These are notarial documents created when usually when one or both parents are deceased and a child or children need to be taken care of by various family members or neighbors, etc. So guardianships called tutorships and curatorships, tutelle in French and curatelle, and tutelle in French and curatelle. So very interesting to see as well. Persons incarcerated in Quebec prisons is also an interesting database to browse through. Voting records from 1814 to 1841. You can see if your ancestor was on these voting records, has their address, their family members' names who are eligible to vote, etc. All right, so as I mentioned in your handout, you should have more information. But now that we know what the BANQ website holds for us, let's take a quick look at how we can access this data. And I brought it up today for you because it's such a wonderful website for genealogical resources in Quebec. It really is a treasure trove. But I have to admit that it is one of the most difficult websites to navigate. Not only is it all in French, if you can speak French, that's great. If you can't, it's very complicated. So you may want to note down some of the process because it's definitely not intuitive. And to make matters worse, the screens change frequently. So let's go ahead and take a look. I suggest you first click on the website up here, benq.qc.ca/genealogy in French, i.e., not the Y. If you can put that in your browser, that will help a lot. Then you'll have to scroll down. You'll get this screen here. And then you'll say, okay, now where do I go? But if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of your screen, it'll take a little bit of time, you'll get this box here, which says accéder aux bases de données, which is access to the database. So you click on that, and then we go to the next screen. And you're going to get eventually this screen here, which is the database, the databases. And here on the genealogy databases tab, you have over 50 databases to browse through. You can also go here and do the pull down, and you'll get all the 50 databases there, or just browse through down here. So if I just click on this very first one, the very first one that pops up here is the tutelle and curatelle de la Région de Montréal, which is here, tutelle and curatelle, the guardianships available for the Montreal region from 1791 to 1807, and in parentheses, it was updated in the year 2004. So here's the little tab that I'll get after I clicked on it, and you just have to put in the family name. You can put in the first name if you want. You don't have to put in anything else. And then you just click on search and or chercher. Sorry, I was going to say it all in French for you, but I decided that no, it's probably better if I keep on speaking English. So here we have 16 results for this search that I clicked on search. And here's the what pops up. Angélique Gervais and tutelle and curatelle of the region of Montreal. Angélique Gervais, and it's from 1794, 21st of March, 1794. And this is the person who passed away. And there is more information here. Unfortunately, you don't have the original record. You don't have the original guardianship. The guardianships are usually, I don't know, I would say 20 to 30 pages long, very lengthy, naming all the people that went to the notary to claim the children or sponsor the children or say that they agree that this child or these children should be taken care of by a certain relative, etc. And all you need to do is take this information, screen print it or copy it, and send it off to the BANQ, and they will send you within a week or two the actual document. All right, so what I want to show you here is we want to go to the Register of Civil Status, the Register of Civil Status in Quebec. And this is really important because the BANQ is the ownership. They take care of all the Quebec civil status records. In other words, all the baptisms, all the marriages, and all the burials are archived at the BANQ. And the Quebec civil status records are, by the way, one of the most complete in the world because in New France, following the common practice in France, priests filled out 2 copies of a vital statistic record. So they filled out 2 copies of a baptism, a marriage, and a burial. The priests kept their religious copy in their parish, but then they sent transcription or the handwritten transcription or form that they sent to the state or to the local courthouse. So the reason why it's the most complete in the world, because if the church burned down, which happened quite often in New France because they were mostly built of wood, and even if they were built of stone, if the interior burned, all the parish records burned as well. But the courthouse has all the court copies, all the copies that the priest sent to the courthouse by law. So that's why it's one of the most complete in the world. Now, how do we get there? So up here is where we were before. We went to the base de données généalogiques de B&Q. That's where we went to the databases screen. We have to scroll all the way down until we see this image here, which is the Registre de l'État civil du Québec. And that's what you have to click on to get to the Quebec civil status records. So this is what we clicked on. I just blew it up a little bit. So this is a complicated screen. I don't know why they have to make things so complicated for a genealogist, but if you have patience, you can really find what you're looking for. All vital records that are less than 100 years old are the responsibility of the director of the Quebec civil status. But all records that are 100 years and older are here. There are no doubt they're all here somewhere. So this is what comes up if I don't click on here on the right-hand side. There's all kinds of search criteria. You could search by region. You can search by administrative district, parish, by date. So you have all kinds of search criteria there for you. So I'm just going to click on this very first one that popped up because it's in alphabetical order, I suppose. No, not even. It's just randomly listing. So it's the Christian Workers Congregational Church from 1918 to 1919, and it's in the District of Montreal. So I'm just going to click on that just to show you what you'll see. So we had actually only 10 images there to look through. I forgot to mention that none of these are indexed. None of these records on the B&Q website for the civil status records are indexed. You have to actually go through image by image. So these are primary source documents, but no search criteria. There's no indexing. So here for the Congregational Church, Christian Workers Congregational Church is only 10 images. Not so bad. And this image is fairly clear to take a look at. It's a burial for someone in 1918. So that's what you could expect for the Quebec civil status records. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to go through all the functionality of the B&Q because there's just so much to look at. You can spend hours and hours and hours there. So when would you use the Bibliothèque Archives Nationales de Québec's website? Well, if you're looking for an original parish record of a baptism, marriage, or burial, or death, and you know the parish and approximate date of the event, then it's, you can easily go to the B&Q website and find the original church record. If you're looking for more than just a BMD record, there's obituaries or other info in digitized newspapers. They have all the newspapers in the province of Quebec, English and French, digitized at the B&Q. So you can easily go into the newspapers, digitized newspapers, and search for obituaries or other stories of your ancestors. They have all the notarial documents, directories, addresses of where your ancestors lived, coroner's reports, prison inmates information, inventories after death, and much more. So if you're looking for more than a BMD, or if you want the original parish record, this is the place to go. It really is a wonderful, wonderful database. All right, I want to take you now to the Fichier Origine. I'm not sure if everyone or anyone is aware of the Fichier Origine, but what I want to show you today are websites that are not that common outside of the province of Quebec, but for the folks, for the genealogists inside the province, and for most people inside the province, French Canadians, they've already done their family trees all the way into the country of origin. If I speak to my neighbor or speak to a coworker or speak to anybody, everyone's done their family trees who is French Canadian, and they use all these tools here that are perhaps not as common outside of the province. So the Fichier Origine, there's the website. It is managed by the Quebec Federation of Genealogical Societies, and the screens are unfortunately only in French, but you can easily find your way around the database. There's not that many screens. And the database was launched, I think, in about 2001, and contains detailed information on the first immigrants that came to New France, but from their country of origin, such as the immigrant's baptism, let's say in France, marriage, if their parents were married in France, the parents' marriage, dates and place, names of parents, information on any siblings in the country of origin, etc. So I've already mentioned a lot of this. The information is from the beginning of colonization up until about 1865, because usually after 1865, most of the information now is in the Quebec databases with regards to the immigrants' marriage and their children's baptisms and marriages and burials, etc. It currently has over 6,000 records. It has great search criteria and also an alphabetical listing in names. And what's really interesting is that they have a dedicated group of researchers whose sole objective is to trace every French-Canadian, French-Quebec lineage back into France using primary source records. So you know the information that you're getting is extremely accurate. So here's the first screen of Fichier Origin. And for those of you who do know this database, you may not recognize this screen because this screen is a new screen from only the month of July. So it surprised me because I use this database quite frequently. And suddenly I saw, wow, this is a different screen, a screen that I've never seen before. And it's the very first screen that you're going to get. So if you haven't seen this screen before, this is the screen that you're now going to see when you log into the Fichier Origin website. And what you have to do is just click on here, this tab here called Repertoire. And Repertoire in French means directory. And you can go here to search help or anything like, or sources or about, but really just go right here and you're going to get the next screen. And the next screen is fairly easy, as I mentioned, to follow. Known as name, all you have to do is put the last name of the person here. You don't need to put in the name of the file or what country they came from, or the occupation, or their marriage date, anything like that. You just put the family name of the person and click at the very bottom right here, Rechercher or Search, and away you go. So I put the name Bluff in, and the reason why I put the name Bluff in is because Bluff can be spelled Bluff or B-L-O-U-F or B-L-O-U-F-F-E, or in Quebec, it's not actually called Bluff, but the name is called Plouffe with a P, P-L-O-U-F-F-E. So I put in Bluff just to see what would come out. And we have one result up here for Jean Bluff. And his place of origin is Paris. There we are, my cursor, Paris. He was first mentioned in New France in 1666, and his occupation when he arrived was a domestic. So he worked on someone's farm, in someone's house, or a savetier. A savetier could be a shoemaker or could be a cobbler. He was either one of those. And what I want to show you here, if you click on détail or detail, well, it's quite easy to figure out. This is what you would get. You would get parents. Name of his father, Antoine. Name of his mother, Geneviève de May. The marriage date of his parents. In 1641, 24th of February, CM means a marriage contract, contrat de mariage. And who married them, and here's the notary in Paris that married them. And the occupation of this Jean Bluff's father was a cordonnier, a shoemaker. This is what's really interesting here on the Fichier Origin. So remember, I'm going into France. I'm going into France to find more information about Jean Bluff, who was mentioned in the province of Quebec in 1666, but I want to know more about him in his country of origin in France. So here's the supplementary information that the researchers found on him. Now, if you don't speak French very well or read French. I shouldn't say speak because you're not speaking here, but reading French. If you get to this information, supplementary information, you just have to do a copy and paste and put it into Google Translate. It's very simplistic words. So Google Translate will translate it really well for you. So we see up here, I translated it in English for you, and you'll see all this wonderful information that came from the Fichier Origine. So the Jean Bluff, who I had found one result for in France, he is from Paris, the Saint Martin district in Paris in 1641. His father, Antoine, was a shoemaker living in Paris. It actually lists the street name of where he lived, Rue Mouffetard. He had a brother, Antoine, who was also a master shoemaker in Paris. And then it lists his paternal grandparents. How interesting is that? So his paternal grandparents were Jean Bluff, a master tanner in Paris, and his wife, Cancienne Dufriche, and his maternal grandparents, Claude de May, and a master candlemaker, and a Perret Minier. So this is all information that you would not have found in any Quebec database, because Quebec databases only have when the immigrant came to Quebec and either married or had children and died. So all this information comes from France. So that's a wonderful database to get more information on your first immigrant from New France. Now, as I mentioned, the researchers are concentrating on every French lineage into France, but there's also other immigrants that they have information on from the UK, from Ireland, Scotland. Not a lot, but some information. All right, so when would you use this information? Well, your ancestral first immigrant primarily came from France, because that's their research's objective right now, is to trace every Quebec lineage, French Quebec lineage. You're searching for information on the parents' names, birth dates, marriage dates, burial dates, the occupation of the parents, the father, perhaps the grandparents as well, names of siblings and their baptismal dates, names of grandparents, where in France the family lived. And as well as all the filles de roi are mentioned in this database. All Louis Joseph de Montcalm's soldiers are in this database, as well as all the soldiers of the Carignan-Salière regiment. So it has a whole bunch of information there for you to take a look at. And the filles de roi, because it's the Fichier Origine, it's also going back into France to find out more about the filles de roi, the parents' names, the brothers and sisters of the filles de roi, etc. So you can now add all kinds of branches to your family trees once you get into France. So it's a wonderful database. All right. So similar to the Fichier Origine is the database called the Nos Origines database. Nos Origines means our origins. It's a completely bilingual database. You may not have heard of this one as well, but it has lots of information to help you fill in gaps in your family tree. So the data of the Nos Origines database is presented in a family tree format. Most trees go back to the first immigrant, and it could be from France or it could be from another country. And although their primary focus is going back to France. And the originators of the Nos Origines database use parish and civil records to create the basic trees for the very first immigrants, the pioneers that came into New France. Now, users generated the remaining information on these trees. So much is very similar to ancestry trees or family search trees. They're user-generated information, so you have to take them with a grain of salt and see if you can find the source records. So the mission of the Nos Origines database is for anyone with roots in Quebec to create their family tree on Nos Origines, so it can be shared and used and shared for public access for future generations. And their objective is to create and complete family trees for every Quebec pioneer. So it's a great mission. So let's take a look at the screen. So as I mentioned, the screens are bilingual. So the very first screen you're going to get is this one when you log into the website. You can put in the last name and the first name, or just put in the last name. And you can also do an advanced search, which I clicked on here. So the advanced search has first name, last name. You can put the start year. You can put a spouse's name, which I always leave blank because you never know exactly how to spell the spouse's name. And was their first name Mary or Marie, or was it Elizabeth, and Elizabeth with an S and not a Z, etc. And you can put starting the spelling with, exact spelling, etc., etc. So I just put in these two search fields, Gervais and first name of Jean, to see what I get. So let's take a look. So here you can see we have lots of results. We have various pages. And the very first one that comes up is Jean Gervais, which is who I typed in. And it always puts it in date order first, date of birth, order of birth of the person that you're searching for. So here we have Jean Gervais, and everything that's in blue with the line underneath is hyperlinked, so you can click on it. You see his parents' names, Urbain and Jean Herries. So he was born, Jean Gervais was born in 24th of March, 1616. He died in 1690. His spouse was Anne Archambault, and here are our parents' names. So if this is the person that you're looking for, you just click on the link and you will get the next page. So here's the family tree layout kind of that I was talking about. So here's all on the left-hand side, here's all the information on Jean Gervais. His occupation was a baker. He was baptized 1616 in the parish of Saint-Michel in France. And they got the information from his baptismal register. So that's important to see that where did they get this information from? He was buried in 1690 when he was 73 years old in Montreal. So where did the information come from? It came from the burial record of the Montreal Notre Dame parish. And there's other information here. And some of the information came from the Fichier Origine. So if I go to the right here, this is his marriage. He was 37 years old when he married Anne Archambault, 22 years old. They married in 1654 in Montreal. And if we go to the right, it's all the information on Anne Archambault. So Jean Gervais, here's his parents, and it's not hyperlinked, so they didn't go any further into France for his parents. Anne Archambault, her parents are hyperlinked, and he was born in 1605 in France, and Françoise was born in 1599 in France, and they're hyperlinked, and you can go further up the tree for Anne Archambault. At the very bottom here, you see the children, their children, and it has the married children. So it shows Charlotte, who was born 1651, and mother, father, and husband. Marguerite and Cunegonde and Jeanne, etc. So this is all information that's really good to help fill in some gaps in your family trees. But as I mentioned, it's very important that you see what the sources are. Also, I want to mention that the website is full of ads. I have one ad right here in the middle of my screen, annonce Google, bloquer l'annonce, but there were a lot more ads that I kind of tried to remove for this screen image. So it could be annoying when you see all these ads that pop up in the middle of your screen or all over the place, but you just have to keep Xing them out and getting used to it. All right, so when would you use this database? Well, if you're just starting to create your family tree, this is the perfect place to go to see if your family tree has already been created on Nos Origines. If you want to break down a brick wall and find out more information about a certain branch, you might find it here. Or if you're looking for missing branches or missing information on branches, or looking to confirm your family tree that you already created from other users who are looking at this family tree. Or if you're looking for source information for your data that maybe you have from Family Search or from Ancestry, and you want to make sure that your sources are correct. So it is a great database to go to. All right, so here's Claire Genealogy. So Claire Genealogy is another bilingual database. It's a wonderful database, and you probably never heard of it because it was only launched in about 2019. by a Quebec Genealogical Society, whose sole objective is for researchers and genealogists to find the men and women who entered a religious order and consequently disappeared from genealogical records beyond their baptismal record. So right now, well, not right now, I should say, but there's over 120,000 Quebecers who dedicated their lives to religious service. And this database currently includes 73,000. So they have quite a ways to go to complete the 120,000, but they have over 73,000 nuns, brothers, fathers, priests on this database right now from over 270 religious orders. And their objective is really to create a record for those who have entered the religious order, and of course to find the remaining 50,000 nuns, brothers, and fathers and priests, which is a big objective in itself because they have to contact the religious orders, and those religious orders have to agree to make their information public. So they want to include information for each person, but most importantly, it's this right here, connect them to their parents. Because you may know that when you join a religious order, your name changes. For example, my name is Joanne, but if I joined a religious order, I might become Sister Elizabeth or Sister Mary, and my name changes, and we lose complete track of them, of these people, because they don't marry, and when they die, they usually die in their religious order and get buried in the cemetery of the religious order. And the objective, of course, of the project is to provide really good search criteria to find these men and women that have disappeared from genealogical records. All right, so let's take a look. When you log into the Claire Genealogy database, you do have to create a free account, much like Family Search, you have to create a free account, but you just have to, once you get in and create your free account, the search fields are really great. You can go in English and French, and you can just put the last name in, click on search. You can go into the advanced search if you want, but I just clicked on, I just put in the surname, search, and here's what I get. I have, let's see, quite a few pages, 6 pages to go through, but I just randomly went down and said, oh, this one has a religious name here. So let me click on this one, which is Agnes Gervais, who's also called Sœur Marie Artemi or Sister Mary Artemi. So let's see what she has on her file. So Sister Agnes or Sister Mary Artemi, she's female. It tells you when she was born, 1884, so they have her baptismal record. And she joined the religious order of Sisters or Sœurs de Saint-Nom de Jésus de Marie, which is Sisters of the Holy Names of Jesus and Mary. She died in 1963 in Montreal. She was buried in the Saint Antoine de Padoue Cemetery. But right down here, this is the connection to the parents. So they may have had this name of the sister, Sister Mary Artemi, in their database, but the important part here is trying to connect them to connect her to her parents. So if I just put in, if I knew the parents' names, I could actually search by parents' names to see if they had any children who joined a religious order. So here's her father, Dosité Gervais, born in 1849, and her mother, and that's their marriage date. But I'm going to click on the father just to show you that if you searched in this database for the father, you would also see that here he is and his wife. But they had 3 children who joined religious orders. I had found this sister, Mary Artemi, but there was also Sister Marie Zima and Sister Mary Saint-Jean de Canty, who was born as with the name Marianne, and this one was born with the name Mary Euthychienne. So how would you ever have found them? You probably would never have found them if you hadn't gone in with the father's name in this database. So let's see. So why would you access this database? Well, I've accessed it several times to solve a brick wall because I found a baptism but can't find the marriage or burial. So especially in the 1600s, 1700s, even the 1800s. It was an honor for large families for their children to join a religious order. So if you can't find a marriage or a burial record, try and look at to see if they joined a religious order. And you can complete branches on your family tree by putting in their religious order information and the place where they joined the religious order. And you can add, all this historical information. So it is a great database, very easy to search, especially if you know the parents' names. All right, family search. So as I mentioned, I'm sure most of you are familiar with family search and its search tools. So you're probably wondering why I added it here, but really what I want to show you is the wealth of Quebec records that have not been indexed yet. So the Quebec records on family search that have no search criteria are the civil copy of church records. The civil copy are the church records that I showed you at the BA&Q that are the civil status records. So these are the records from 1642 to 1902, but they haven't been indexed. Much like on the BA&Q, they haven't been indexed. Non-Catholic parish registers, so if your ancestors were not Catholic, here, a family search has all the non-Catholic parish registers from 1763 to 1967 that are non-indexed. The guardianship records, they have all the guardianship records, like the B&Q does, from 1639 to 1930, but they have not been indexed. And notarial records that are not indexed either, and various interesting land records that haven't been indexed. So how do we find these non-indexed records? Let's take a look. So we logged into Family Search with our username and password. We go into search, go into records, then scroll right to the bottom of the page, and you're going to get something like this. Search historical records. But we're not going to put in the person's first name or last name or anything like that. So no, we're not going to go there. We're going to continue looking down. Find a collection, and we're going to go all the way over here, search by place, put in Canada, or you can actually click on the map, Canada and Quebec, but you can go Canada and Quebec. So now we're into the Quebec collections. So what do we have in the Quebec collections? Well, you scroll down to the bottom of the page. So a lot of scrolling here, but you go down to the bottom of the page and you go to the image only historical records. So these are non-indexed, just image only. And you can click on birth, marriage, and death is what I'm going to do here. And two record sets pop up, the civil copy of church records and the non-Catholic parish registers. So I showed you the civil copy of church records of the BA&Q, very similar. There's a 1,300,000 records to go through. And here we have 278,000 records to go through. You're not going to go through them one by one, obviously, so I'm going to show you how you can take a look at them. So non-Catholic parish register 1763 to 1967. This is what we're going to have, what we're going to see. You click on browse all the images. And when you click on browse all the images, these are all the non-Catholic parish registers. They're in alphabetical order. The parishes are in alphabetical order. I didn't do a screen print of all of them. So what I'm going to do is just click on the very first one, Abbotsford, Granby Township, and St. Paul d'Abbotsford. And the only non-Catholic denomination we have here is congregational. So we have Quebec non-Catholic parish registers, Abbotsford, congregational. So it has baptisms, marriage, burials, 1837, 1837 to 1855, different years here. And I didn't do a screen print of all of them, but there are different years. And what I'm trying to emphasize here is that is not to only search the traditional way with entering your ancestor's name in the search field and having hundreds of results listed for the index records, but try to look through some non-index records if you can't find your original document. All right, so I clicked on baptism, marriage, and the burials, 1837. And means we only had 7 images to go through. That's pretty good. So I just clicked on the 6th image, which was fairly clear. So it's a Adeline, daughter of, and so on. And this is her baptismal record. Adeline, daughter, issue of, etc. So it's fairly clear, and you can save that, copy and save that to your documents. So I clicked on birth, marriage, death, and non-Catholic parish registers, but you can see all the Quebec image collections right here. So if I just click on this to see all the Quebec image collections, I won't go through them all today, but many of them are listed in your handout. So that's where you would see all the Quebec image collections. So when would you use Family Search non-indexed Quebec records? Well, you can't find a birth, marriage, death on the various other Quebec databases using a surname. So you can go through the image, or they're either church records, the original church records, or index cards. Index cards is a lot is what priests use a lot for the civil copy of the church records. You found a notarial record indexed on Ancestry, but no image. So all the images are here on Family Search, but you may have to go through a little bit of a chore to find them. And you found a guardianship record on the B&Q or on Ancestry, but there's no image. So all the images are actually on Family Search, but you may have to be a little patient on finding them as well. And I do want to say, even though it takes a bit of time to find these non-indexed records on Family Search, they really are well worth it to take a look. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. And I do want to mention, with Family Search's artificial intelligence full text search, these non-indexed records are now becoming more accessible to you without having to search image by image. Okay, let's go to the BMS 2000. Very quickly, I'm going to go through, and there's only a few more databases to go through. So this is our first subscription database that I want to show you. And it's one of my favorites. I really like it because the data starts in the 1600s and goes all the way up to the 2000s. I think I mentioned that the B stands for baptême, M for mariage, S for sépulture, burial, and it was launched in the year 2000. There's about 17 million records on this database, Catholic and non-Catholic records, and also records from areas surrounding Quebec, Eastern Ontario, New Brunswick, and the northeastern United States. There are very, very few transcription errors. I do want to mention that because on almost all the Quebec databases, there's so few transcription errors because it's the French Canadians that are actually transcribing the parish records. So they know the script from the priests, they know the abbreviations, they know the family names, etc. Great search criteria, and the images are linked to Family Search. Not all the images are linked yet, but Family Search is in the process of digitizing all these parish records for the BMS 2000 on Family Search, and it links to Family Search. So let's take a look. When you log into the website, you're going to get these three tabs: research by baptism, research by marriage, research by burial. So let's click on the very first one, baptism. And you'll see it's a fairly straightforward screen. It's completely bilingual. You can choose the language you want to search in. So all you have to do, well, what's really great about the BMS 2000, you only need 2 characters in any 2 fields to do your research. So in the name field, you only need 2 characters, and in the first name field, only 2 characters. At the bottom left here, we have show patronymic variants when available, and those are the nicknames, or the Z names that we call them. The secondary name that a lot of early French settlers used. Here, you're looking for the baptism of the child, but if you click on the pull-down menu, you'll see that you can also search with the parents' names and find all the children of a certain set of parents, or search by the godparents' names and see all the baptismal records that the godparents were godparents of. A little complicated there, but let's take a look. So as I mentioned, minimum of 2 characters in the names field, but I actually put in Plouf. Do you remember when I had Bluff in the fichier origin screen? And in Quebec, they call the name Plouf. If you see over here the patronymic variants, Bluff and Bluff. So they were sometimes called Bluff family, Bluff or Bluff. Back in France, it was Bluff. So I just put in Plouf and Francois just to show you what you're going to see here. And here are all the names. Now you can sort them by date, in date order. So it starts in 1718 for this Francois Plouf. And when you see the camera icon signifies that baptismal record, it was digitized by Family Search, and it's available for you to view. So here we go. I clicked on this Francois Plouf. Here's the transcription, which is always great because sometimes it's very difficult to read the original document. So the BMS 2000 have transcribed the baptismal document. We have Francois Plouf, his father Jean, his mother Mary Paco, godparents Francois Pinot, Marie-Thérèse Bienvenue, birth date, baptismal date, parish, etc. And I'm going to click on this camera icon and show you what happens. If you want to save the record, you can retain it and save it to your computer or correct it. But I'm going to click on the camera icon. And when I click on it, lo and behold, it brings me to Family Search. And there's the original document. I can blow it up and read it. As you can see, it's difficult to read. So it's really great to have the transcription. And you can save that image to your computer when you like. Marriages, so we're still at the baptisms. I'm searching by parents' names. I put in PL for Plouf, PAC for Paco. If I don't know how to spell the name, just put as few characters as you can. Jean, and these are 2 baptisms. These are the parents' names, because I'm searching by parents. Parents' names, they had 2 children, one baptized in 1718 and one in 1723. So that's what's great about the parents, searching by parents' names. Of course, you can click on any of those lines to see who the children were. Research on marriages very quickly. Same thing, you don't need to put all the letters in. I put Paco, Pac for Paco, Plouf for Plouf, Jean. There's their marriage, 1707. And I can click on the record to get all the information about Jean Plouf and his father and mother, wife, mother and father, etc. Click on the camera icon to get the original document. So when would we use the BMS 2000? Very quickly, I went through that database really quickly, but it's such a great database. If you're searching for birth, marriage, death records from the 1600s to the mid-2000s, records in areas bordering the province of Quebec, in particular, if you're unsure of surname spellings, because you don't have to put in the whole surname, you can just put in 2 characters. If I can't find a birth, marriage, death in a free database, you can come here and you can have, it's a voucher-based database, so you can just buy 20 vouchers for $20 or less and take a look to see what you can find. Or if you want to confirm data on a birth, marriage, death record and you can't read the record, you're going to get a perfect transcription from the BMS 2000. Genealogy Quebec. Genealogy Quebec is one of the best databases in the province. It is the premier database that everyone uses in the province. It's home of the Drouin collection, and it's owned by the Drouin Genealogical Institute. So Genealogy Quebec has all the collections and tools developed by the Drouin Institute, not just the Drouin collection, as I'll show you later. It covers from 1621 to the 1900s, all of the province of Quebec, parts of the US, and I'm going to show you that as well, Ontario and Acadia. It has over 16 tools and collections, over 44 million images and files. It has by far the largest collection of Quebec documents on the internet, by far. They have a lot of digitized records, and they're continually adding the digitized records. Not all the records are indexed, and I'll show you that as well. So this is a new screen that was just created by the Drury Institute actually in the month of July. So you can actually have a global search, just put in the first name and last name, click on search, and see what you get. You're going to get a lot of search results, but you can also reduce the results by birth, marriage, death, etc. So I won't show you this new search tool because there's a lot of search results. I'm going to show you where you can go to minimize your results. So under the tools section, here are all the tools that you can use on Genealogy Quebec. You can use the La France section. The La France section is actually indexed. These are all primary search tools. Here, La France, obituaries, marriages, and deaths up to 1997, I should say. Every marriage and death in the province, there's no exception. Every marriage and death from 1926 to 1997 is here by law. If you were married in 1926 up to 1997, by law, you had the officiant had to complete a marriage form, and same thing with the deaths, and send it to the government. So they're all here. These are secondary search tools. And right down here is the actual Drouin collection, which I'm going to show you as well. So let's take a look at La France first. La France contains over 10 million birth, marriage, death records, every Quebec Catholic baptism up to 1861, every Catholic marriage, every non-Catholic marriage up to 1849, and every marriage and death, as I mentioned, recorded by the Quebec government by law. No exceptions, every denomination right here. And digitized image of original church records up to 1940. I so wish that they would continue their digitization, but right now it's only up to 1940, and wonderful search criteria. So La France, you can go by couple. If I put in Plouffe and Francois, and the last name I'll put in here of Emery instead of Paco. Here are all the nicknames, all the Z names. On the database, there's 9 Z names of Bourgeois, 7 Z names of Girard. Same thing with the wife's names, 1,485, and nicknames of Emery with Coder, and so on. Wonderful search criteria. You can search in all roles, if they're the actual subject, if it's the mother and father that you're looking for, or the spouse. So I had put in François Plouffe, and we have all kinds of search results, 10 records here. So I clicked on 23rd of May, 1746, a marriage record. M is marriage, S is sépulture, B is for baptism. And there's many other different types, but I'm just going to click on this one. And here we have pretty much a transcription of their marriage record. François Plouffe was living in Saint François Xavier de Verchères when he got married. Here's his wife's name, father, mother, father of the bride, mother of the bride, and witnesses, people that were present to the wedding. And here's the actual document, which is over here. View the original parish document, and you just click there and you'll get it. Secondary search tools. So you can see there's all kinds, census records, birth, marriage, death cards, Drury Institute family genealogies, Acadia information, notarized documents, postcards, Eastern Township records, all kinds of other information that you could use to search your ancestors. Drury collection right here. This is where we're going to go, and I'm going to show you what you can find. So the Drury collection here is, you can search in Acadia. These are all parish records. They're non-indexed. We're going into the non-indexed Drury collection records. And you can go into the USA here, and there's parish records for Alabama, Arkansas, New York State, Illinois, and look, we have some here for Indiana as well. If I go down here, we have Ontario and Quebec. Of course, Quebec is the largest collection, and it's listed in alphabetical order every parish in the province. But I'm going to click on Indiana, because I've never clicked on there before, and I just wanted to see what we can find. So here we have Indiana, and we have one parish of Fort Vincennes, the Mission de Saint Francois Xavier. And here are all the images. So I just clicked on the very first one, and it's the registre de baptême pour les sauvages, for the Indians of the post of Vincennes. And it's a baptismal record of 1749 for Jean-Baptiste, son of Pierre, and this is a indigenous name, etc. So it's all these records are there on the drawing collection, and you just have to go and look for them and find them. So the drawing collection is a wonderful place to go. So when to access this database? Looking for the original church record, looking for just more than a birth, marriage, death. You're looking for obituaries, tombstone transcriptions, notarized documents, family genealogies, etc., census records from 1666 to 1760, and much, much more. It's just a wonderful database. As I mentioned, it's Quebec's premier database where everyone goes to do their research in the province. Last database that I'm going to show you here is the PRDH. I'll go through very quickly. PRDH database, you may or may not be aware of it. It's the Programme de Recherche en Démographie Historique, or an English research program in historical demography, and it was created by the University of Montreal in 1966 by the Historical Demography Department, whose sole reason for being was to undertake an exhaustive reconstruction of the population of Quebec from the beginning of French colonization. So this database has since been bought by the Drouin Institute. Did I ever mention that Quebecers are passionate about genealogy and their roots? So we have so many wonderful databases. So this strength is family reconstructions, and your birth, marriage, death records are linked to parents and family ties. Only goes up to 1849, because after that you can go to the Drouin Collection, Genealogy Quebec, but it covers from the first immigrant, has over 2 million records, includes non-Catholic records. It also includes more information such as hospital list, early census records, marriage contracts, witnesses. It'll show you whether your ancestor came when he was the first immigrant. Was he actually a witness to another baptism or a marriage or a burial before he actually got married? And confirmation list of immigrants as well. So when you log into PRDH, you're going to see these three tabs: vital events, dictionary, couples. They're very similar. All three of them are very similar. You can go right to the dictionary. You can go right to couples. I'm going to go to couples and show you what we have here. Or actually, I went to the vital events, and it's going to show you exactly what you would find in the couples. So I put in again Plouffe over there, and first name Francois on the left-hand side. And we have all roles and types, and it's male or female. And over here on the arrow, you can see all the roles are the spouse, the father, the mother, and all different types of information that you can look for. So we have Francois Plouffe over here, and from 1672. And on the right-hand side, I just put in what these types of records could be. R for recensement, census record, baptismal, confirmation, burial, marriage, list of immigrants, notarial records, hospital records, etc. So you can see all kinds of different records here. So I clicked on a baptism, the 1718, 27th of November, Francois Plouffe. Well, these are all hyperlinks. You can go further up the line with Francois Plouffe by clicking on his name, and we will see his family reconstruction. Francois Plouffe, there's his family record. You can click on that to see who his mother and father's family it was, his siblings, Francois Plouffe's siblings, I should say. Birth, his baptismal record, burial record. He married in 1746. If you click here, you can see their family information as well. So here's Francois Plouffe and his wife, and these are all his children. Quite a few of them, if you can. I didn't count how many there are, but there's well over 10 children, all their baptismal dates, marriage dates, burial dates, and who they married. And you can click on any of these records to get more information. So when would you use this database? When you're searching for familiar information for a couple, you want to complete your tree from 1849 up to the first immigrant. You want to confirm the accuracy of your family tree. I've never found an error on the PRDH yet in all my years of your researching. And you're searching for other information on your ancestor, such as, was your ancestor in one of the Quebec City hospitals? Was he in an early census record before he actually married? Was he on the confirmation list? Because often if they were not Catholic or they didn't declare they were Catholic when they came across on the ship, the priest confirmed them all right there. Everybody on the ship, they confirmed them all right there in the port. Were they a godparent before you found their marriage record? Were they a witness at a wedding? So all kinds of wonderful information there on the PRDH database, which is also voucher based, and you could spend as little or as much time as you wanted on the database. Well, this concludes my presentation on the different tools you can use to research your ancestors from Quebec. I truly hope that I piqued your interest in accessing some of the tools you may not be too familiar with that you can use to research your Quebec ancestors. Alrighty, any questions?
Thank you. It looks like we do have a question for you. And it's in regard to searching for last names on some of the websites. Their family name is a common French surname. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Looks like Manette. Do you have any suggestions on how to weed through all of the hits on that surname or other common surnames?
Well, if it's a common surname, Manette is a common surname as well. If you knew approximately the birth date or the marriage date or the burial date, you can certainly weed out quite a few of the hits just by putting a birth range or a marriage range or a burial range. If you knew the first name and it wasn't Joseph, then you can try and put in the first name as well, obviously. And if you knew the spouse's name, that would reduce the number of hits as well. But most of these databases have such good search criteria that you can certainly reduce the the hits, and you can sort them. Like the BMS 2000, you can sort your results by date. So if you know your ancestors that you're looking for are in the early 1900s, don't look at the year 2000s or look at the 1800s. Just group the ones that are in the 1900s or early 1900s.
Thank you. So, if anybody has any questions that pop up, our email's in the chat. It's genealogy@acpl.info. And if you would like a copy of the chat, send us an email and we'll get that to you as well. So thank you very much, Joanne, and thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you very much for having me. So I really hope people are successful in searching their Quebec ancestors.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.